They are hot hatches, so compact, sporty cars, which are rather still elegant and don't want to attract so much attention. And then there's this one, the Honda Civic Type R. One review you desired, and we are very happy to show that here today in Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars with Thomas. We're going to take a detailed look on the exterior, interior, and of course at the sporty driving with those 310 horsepower. I can tell you one thing already so far, there are a lot of interesting things to talk about with this car. Let's now go with Autogefühl in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. In the front you can see, well, the Honda Civic already is, rather sporty in the compact class. From a normal design overview, starts at about, taking German price as a reference, 17,000 euros. Here the Type R, double the price, and you get, for example, a massive lower spoiler and also bigger air intakes and everything, that looks really aggressive already in front. Also the car sits lower, of course, to have a better ground contact with a sports suspension. You can already see it here in the front, and a red background at the Honda logo. Side profile also so spectacular. Total length 4 meters and 38, 1,450 kilograms in weight, so still quite light. Also here with those air outtakes here and here, wow, it's just screaming out. Competition white in the color. 19-inch alloys with this red contrast all the way around, red Brembo brake calipers. It cannot be any more screaming out, and we have already realized when we drive this car, it's really separating in love or hate. Some people say, wow, what a great car, looks so great, so sporty, and some others say, oh, what dog is driving around there with, such a car, such a huge wing, and so it's really polarizing, that car. And although it's not my personal design favorite, I like it when a car is polarizing. Let's continue over here to the side profile. Everything held in black, especially in the contrast to the white. Strong side bumper at the lower part as well. And then, if we continue to the rear, this is so massive. And yeah, it has been on the racetrack on the Nürburgring Nordschleife as well and scored a record lap. But here, isn't that a little bit too much? 7 minutes and 50 seconds, that was the record lap, by the way, and it was groundbreaking also for a car with just front wheel drive. However, again here from the rear perspective, such a massive wing, and that one here, that part is already a normal version, splitting the rear view. We'll talk about it when driving the car. It's not the best for the overview from the inside. And of course, still a 2-liter engine in the front we'll soon take a look at. But 4 exhaust pipes and this massive diffuser, everything is so, look at those dimensions. So really want to hear your opinion and comments. Is that really cool for you, or is it too much? Looking forward to that. And here we have the engine in the red contrast as well. 2-liter turbo petrol engine, 310 horsepower. 5.7 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers or 0 to 60 miles an hour. That's between the Golf R and the Golf GTI. So the R is a little bit faster, the GTI is a little bit slower, but it's also as for the horsepower. This here is the car key. Then let's say we also get inside. Basically normal compact class segment. Then those wow, great racing seats, red contrast and very strong at the side. So getting in is not that easy. And then you really hold tight. That's how you build racing seats. With cloth and Alcantara mixed as a surface, that's how it has to be, especially in the sporty side. So chapeau to the Honda product designers here. It is also really a racing position, and this car is really capable of going to racetrack, that's no question. It's also not that uncomfortable as they look like, as they offer good support, and also for the climatization. You know, when you don't have genuine leather, it also doesn't get hot or cold that much, so it's good for summer and winter times definitely. Also still, although you're not caged in, still suitable for tall people, that's no problem. Above my head there's so much space. I'm 1.86 m or 6'1". Touch of the steering wheel, quite handy, compact size. And also this whole cockpit with the red contrast, everything tuned on racing, of course. But well, it's not too spacious here in the front in general, also with my knees here, because you know, I can't sit too far away from the steering wheel and from the foot pads and so on. I've seen more spacious cars in the compact segment, but also less spacious cars. The steering wheel can also be adjusted to the front and the back, lower and upper. And in general, we have quite some things already, like Bluetooth connection and so on, already from the serial equipment here and all the racing features. And then if you also pick the so-called GT package, there's even more included already, but you have to pay that extra, of course. Cockpit overview, it's really a great contrast with those red seats, and also you see red contrasts everywhere else in the interior. The GT package, which is another couple of €1,000 extra, also includes the GPS then and 2-zone AC, for example. And what I'm going to explain to you in detail is the split of the instruments. You see RPM meter central, then speed up there, and then the infotainment screen there, a little bit strange. And also the whole cockpit, you see the front one is going wide into the interior. Looking at the steering wheel, it's nice with those red contrasts in the lower part, as well as the top position. We know that from a rally sport that signalizes this one is top then of the steering wheel. Nice racing details. Infotainment unit. I don't really like the visualization of the software. Also, it's not that intuitive. You also got those apps here, but well, you can load images from your USB stick on here, for example. But most of them, I don't see any use of that. You can also connect it, I think, with MirrorLink it was to the internet, but for example, Apple CarPlay is not available. I usually just connect the phone via Bluetooth then here. That works quite easy. Just press yes, and then it connects to your phone. Other than that, for example, looking here at the settings, how intuitive is everything? You see, it's Android based. For example, looking here, if I want to change the language, how fast that goes is always also a good sign of how well you can control the screen. It works quite well, but the responsive times could be a little bit faster. Here you could, by the way, put the sound louder and quiet again. Then GPS wise, well, you see here, this is also some, I'm not quite sure, it really reminds me of an inbuilt GPS. See here, also takes a lot of time when we hear. Also visualization is also quite old-fashioned, I think. So overall, this one is quite good, by the way, that you can fastly change the brightness. It offers every function you basically need, but then again, well, paying extra for it, because this one here is, for example, extra in the GT package. Then the AC unit below here looks quite well to control. Easy solution here, putting the vents or temperature, and also not placed too far below. That's still okay overall, I think, solid. instruments, and I've told you they're separated. In the middle one, RPM meter. Then the plus R button that changes the driving characteristics of suspension and throttle input. I will show you later on while driving. We can push it. And then speedometer is on the top of that. There it is, normal speedometer. Then this other screen, which can, for example, show when the doors are open. Also, consumption view can be on there, like this. 9 liters on 100 kilometers of consumption is, well, reasonable. Also, the G meter will be displayed right here. And then you got the central infotainment screen. We can also show you that in detail, but overall, as I said, it's a little bit confusing to have so many different elements here. Nice, those carbon fiber covers. It's a good emotional detail. And also look at the inside of the doors with microfiber cloth here and rest control stitches. I like that. Hardly anywhere where you cannot see the Type R logo, for example here, also signed with the very build number of this vehicle. Then look at that one here, the shifting knob. Wow, pure racing style, really old school, just round and very short. So not the most comfortable to shift, but a great racing style. And for example, also Type R logos on the floor mats. And also another detailed look again on the seats, how they use different cloth and microfiber materials. Such a great combination, I can just stress again. And with the Type R logo and the gaps in racing style, although the belts are coming just from the normal way. Storage spaces inside of the doors, but here, build quality wise, not that promising. But we also have other fields like the seats where the build quality is superb. Then, glove box right here, standard. Middle console, we have beverages holders, they're quite shallow. And then a huge middle armrest box. You can charge your phone there, also other plug-in devices there, 12 volt again. And then you can close the armrest. It's quite stable, also with a nice Alcantara surface, red contrast stitches. That's again well done. It's interesting how they designed it with the rear, that you can open the doors here. And we also know that, for example, from Alfa Romeo, or that one also in the Honda HR-V is also used. Then let's get inside, and surprise here, it looks, you know, so like a racing car, and also those huge sport seats. But then, as the sport seats are usually also, you know, set up with a quite steep angle, you should have it that way. It's good, you know, for your back support and also good for good driving position. But then also there's some space still in front of my knees, and I think that's a good result. Also headspace wise, if I lean back, still some space above my head. So the offering of space here in the rear for a compact segment is quite good actually. I'm quite surprised of that. And it's nice that you have those red seat belts and also red contour stitches as well here for the rear compartment. Flipping the seats, by the way, is possible here at the upper right. You can do that from here, like this, or also from the trunk. And there it is. Let's open it. Well, you got those high loading sills with the compact hatches. That's not that good, but then you got quite reasonable space in here, and you can also flip the seats. I have released them from the inside. It's also possible to go above here and then release the other bench. That is possible as well. It's a 1/3, 2/3 split here, and then you got also an even loading space. See the difference here in detail right there. I've managed it quite well. All right, the driving part. Let's start the car. Engine start stop button here. Manual transmission, 6-speed for that 2-liter turbo engine with 310 horsepower. You hear it already when I put in the gears. It's really massive sounds, and that should also, you know, be inspiring for racing, of course. But you also then have a lot of resistance when shifting, so it's really a sporty shifting. So not really that comfortable for everyday driving, but you wanted it sporty when you bought that car, and then you also get it. The steering, if you also compare it to a normal Civic, is definitely heavier. It takes more time to steer it around. I can show you right here. Also, you know, longer ways, longer, wider angle, and so on. So here it's not that comfortable to, for example, do a complete turning again. So you have to be aware of that. That's more comfortable in the normal Civic, of course. And then, maybe let's have some fun. Second gear. And as soon as I hammer the throttle here, wow. Great result, isn't it? Already at 70, that went pretty fast. So yeah, it is really explosive. And even if you hammer the throttle, it's still okay with the front wheels, so you don't have too much wheel spin. Well, we got dry road here today, so that's not really a problem. You see here again, to me a little bit too much of a steering angle, so I would rather prefer a more progressive kind of steering. That would be good to me. The view on the instruments, that's one advantage, as it's put way above that here. You don't have to raise your view too far lower to, you know, you see the street. And so it's almost acting like a head-up display. That is one advantage of this split display. Maybe also the thing they have thought about it when creating that one. Stop-start function is also available, and you know I'm not a fan of it. Oh, this car really tempts you to go racing all the time. Also, the sound is coming into the interior quite well. Long A-pillar, by the way, you really realize it while driving. The seats, you know, they keep you really tight. There's no wobbling around, even if you go like this here, like go-kart style. Wow. Really keeping you tight, together with the surface that is also keeping you tight, and altogether for a racing car, definitely a great choice. You've also seen the rear view camera here in the display. I can show again. I put in the reverse key here. It fills the whole screen. That is good. The resolution could be a little bit better, but overall a good result, and also good to have it. It's also from the Civic equipment than in this high trim level car. The G meter we see in the very front. Also nice to have it in a Honda. Let's see how it reacts also when we drive again and steer left and right. The steering is really something for racers, as I've mentioned, as you really need some work. But then you can also, you know, pretty precisely steer the car, of course. So, city traffic, we're just going to talk about here now a little bit. You see, it's always about also standing at the traffic light. Maybe you can just like put the exhaust sound then to entertain other people, or not. And then we also have an Autobahn part very soon. There we can really push the throttle. That will also be interesting. But this is also one car you're really already eagerly awaiting. The traffic light jumps to green. You can also activate the plus R button. Then you see here the instruments. They're now all in a red color. And then I got a massive throttle input. Wow. So I don't need to push the throttle that hard that the car already is accelerating. This throttle input is really increased a lot by that. In this R mode also you maybe see like a the suspension gets way stiffer in the R mode. Like this, going with some small bump, bop, bop, bop. I can deactivate it again, then it's a little bit softer. It's still stiff, the suspension, so for everyday driving it is relatively stiff still. However, you picked this very sports variant. If you want it more comfortable, don't pick the Type R. But it's also good that you can still change it if you want it even sportier, that you can adjust it, or again, you know, de-adjust it kinda. Well, such actions here in the city are also possible then if you have the exact acceleration. And wow, the car feels really pretty rough. That's, by the way, the blind spot warner that you heard here. So the car does feel pretty rough, but it's also what it's intended to. So always when you're accelerating, you really feel the road. And I mean, just when cruising through the city, you might be feeling you're on a racetrack. That is also maybe not the best thing for people who cannot control themselves. So you really have to control yourself, that you don't drive too fast with the car when you hear the sound and when you feel the rough suspension. That always tempts you to go faster than allowed, definitely. And the more interesting part will, of course, now be the Autobahn part. You see, that's also Germany. As soon as you're not driving with green traffic light, like half a second, people are using the horn. But I mean, Germany is not the horn-using country. They are, like, I think more in Italy or Spain, it's happens more often then. So, I would say, let's go to the Autobahn. Now we're approaching the Autobahn. We got a part where we just cruise a little bit, and then we got one part with unlimited speed where we can really drop the hammer. Here at the moment, driving 70 kilometers an hour, and well, together with the sound, the boosted sound we have, it's quite loud already in here, so it's not the car with the best sound insulation. Especially if you pick the Type R, you should be aware of that. At the moment I'm in the normal mode, 4th gear, and we can also, for example, test the cruise control, but first of all, one acceleration maybe from 70 to 100. We can go in the 3rd gear for that one, and that's it. It's nice, by the way. Also, when I don't look at the ref meter in the middle part, the upper part is also covered by a special digital ref meter that are some yellow LEDs, and that also has some kind of Formula 1 style when you look at those, at the Formula 1 steering wheels. Nice. Then, let's see if we can get it more silent when we pick the 6th gear. And here the car runs 100 kilometers an hour, or approximately 60 miles an hour at 2,300 RPM approximately. Then cruise control, I can set it at the steering wheel. It's a normal cruise control, not an adaptive one. So there it is, set the cruise control, and I can let the car cruise, but again, 100 kilometers an hour, quite loud in here. So that's not the best discipline for this car. Longer runs in general, yeah, it's a good question. Well, the seats, at some point, of course, there will be a difference that the sport seats do not offer the same very, very long-term comfort than the normal seats. So you have to also be aware of that. Positive aside here on the Autobahn is that we get more side support. So I feel very much connected to the road, and it's of course on the Autobahn also a safe feeling when you're driving at higher speeds. So also when you're driving quite fast here already now, and I turn steering wheel left and right, I get an immediate response. That's a good, really great connection to the road, and you would always need it for the racetrack, of course. Also the seats, they keep me really stable. That can, by the way, also be an important factor for the co-driver. As the co-driver cannot hold on to the steering wheel, it's really important that the co-driver is kept tight with the seat, so co-driver is not like tilting around all over the car, and that makes the ride for a co-driver even more comfortable than when there are those sport seats used. Again, I really have to raise my voice even here in the 6th gear. Let's try the Plus R mode here on the Autobahn. You maybe heard the difference. The cruise control speeds a little bit up then. You know, it's a funny thing. And when I'm going over some bumps here, it's like immediately feeling that the suspension is getting even stiffer. I can also set a lap time here. A lap timer is included here in the vehicle as well, but I won't need that today. I'm not going to the Nürburgring At least not today. We're soon approaching the segment of this Autobahn where we can drive unlimited speed, and maybe we have the chance to do like 100 until 200. It will also be interesting, or try to drop down the speed a little bit more. I can also get off the Autobahn and get on it again. That will be even more interesting. So I'll stay in the plus R mode to make it a little more aggressive. Also see if we can get the front wheels somehow for a wheel spin, but I got that quite well under control. And especially when we got dry situation here now. So the last red traffic light, and then we can soon start final power action for today. As I said, 5.7 seconds is the official acceleration figure if you get everything right. 0 to 100 kilometers or 0 to 60 miles an hour. No, that's not for us. Always looking out, when there are ambulance cars or firefighters, or policemen. Always be aware of that. Some people don't let them through, especially in traffic. You have to pay attention to that. Maybe can be you one day in an ambulance car. So getting on the motorway again then. I'll just let the car roll a little bit now. Accelerate, brake again. Maybe I heard it takes a little bit from the turbo, I think, the sound. Interesting as well. So we let this car pass by. So, second gear, 50 to whatever, let's go now. That was a rev limiter already. And that's 200. I mean, it's a 2-liter engine, come on. So for a 2-liter engine, that was a warm. See how rough it gets here now at 200. Let's see if I deactivate the plus R mode. Yeah, that's better. So I would not drive in the plus R mode. It's too uncomfortable for everyday riding. Interesting, yeah. That's quite okay now if I'm not in the plus R mode. Again, impressive acceleration. You see, it went quite a little bit faster even than I expected, as I think what was a switch from 3rd to 4th or from 4th to 5th gear. So I was a little bit surprised by that we already hit the rev limiter that fast. So there was one point where I was shifting a little bit too late then, but of course it always depends on the very car you drive, and if you really try it out a couple of more times, if you have the possibility anyway. So hardly any possibilities to go at those speeds and those accelerations anyway. So not so much practice possible usually. Now we're also going into a tunnel. We check the sound installation again, and also maybe push the throttle once more inside the tunnel. Will be funny as well, maybe. But interesting again, maybe you heard it again. I'm not sure if it's coming on the camera, especially when I'm shifting or when I just drive and let go of the throttle. Then there's kind of air blowing sound, and I'm not quite sure if it's from the turbo or if it's just from the pedals, but it's not. Well, that's a quite strange sound. But overall, I think we also got a reasonable sporty sound here in the interior already. We can make a U-turn and go for that part of the Autobahn once more. They can have some more acceleration if you like to, if you enjoyed that part here. Now, especially our fans who are not from Germany, they have even less possibilities to do stuff like that, and so it's of course good when we can show you that, and you also don't have to risk it yourself, because here I know the roads we're driving on, and always, we're not doing so many performance stuff, not also like burnouts all the time. Others can do that, I don't know, but I more care about the family and the people I'm working with, and also other people which are not involved with our work. So it's always Autogefühl is always safety first, And so we only do that if we have really safe conditions and really can foresee what's ahead of us. And you know, better to leave one situation out or so than to risk anything, because that's not really worth it. I think we can also give you good impressions here when we do stuff like this. So we wait just a second, then we'll show you another acceleration. All right, let's go. And 200 again. See, I used some earlier shifting now, but I'm not sure what was faster. It was 80 to 200 kilometers an hour. Again, great performance by this compact racing vehicle. Suitable for the Nürburgring, for sure. For your everyday driving, that's indeed questionable. Also, the overview, by the way, to the rear is not that good. So let's just get the split window there, but that's maybe also a neglectable point when you want this racing style here. I hoped you enjoyed also our Autobahn part here. And here we are with the conclusion Honda Civic Type R. Really that hot hatch that is screaming out, I'm the sports machine. So if you want something elegant, no way at all. If you want something very prominent, then here it's the way to go. And well, what I really like is that car is polarizing. It's not my personal design favorite, because I rather prefer it in an elegant way, but maybe you're of a different opinion, and then put me that one in the comments. Definitely everything is really exaggerated as for the features, for example also the rear wing, but it has also scored a very good lap time on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, so it is capable, one of the fastest front wheel driven cars, definitely. The interior, wow, those racing seats, aren't they great? That's how you build racing seats, and also with the different surfaces there with the Alcantara and cloth mix. That's really the best racing seats I've probably ever seen. Also not too uncomfortable when you ride it, also as a tall driver. Overall, offering of space is also quite acceptable, especially in the rear compartment. I was quite surprised by that. So you can't moan about that. But the cockpit, you know, with those very different elements, that was a little bit irritating to me. I would prefer a cleaner solution as for this case. Then driving, yeah, it is kind of rough, but you know, you want a sporty ride when you buy this car, so it's also okay. You can also change it a little bit with this plus R button to make it even rougher, or to leave it in a way. But for normal everyday driving, I would maybe go for a little bit softer suspension even, but again, that's just my 2 cents about it. Maybe you just prefer stiffer suspension in general, and then you can have this everyday driving fun with this really hot hatch, I can tell you. Looking forward to your opinion, to this review with the exterior, interior and the driving experience. Tell me what's your favorite hot hatch, and of course check out other Autogefühl reviews. We have, you know, Golf R, Golf GTI, Peugeot 308 GTI and Seat Leon, Cupra. We almost have tested every hot hatch already. Mercedes AMG, A-Class and so on. A lot of hot hatches in Autogefühl. Be sure that you all check them out if you haven't done so far. Thank you very much for watching this episode, and I'm sure we'll see each other at our next Autogefühl video.